This antique wardrobe had stood in my room for as long as I could remember. It clashed violently with the rest of the decor, like a black ink stain on a white wall. Our apartment was unremarkable: light laminate flooring, plain gray wallpaper. And then there was this, a massive dark monolith with heavy doors. Its most striking features were the brass handles and the ornate backplates fashioned into golden branches and leaves. As a child, I genuinely believed they were made of solid gold. I never knew where it came from. My parents weren't fond of sharing family histories. Perhaps it was moved from my late great-grandmother's flat, or maybe it was a bargain find. In the end, it hardly mattered. I knew this giant was unlike the rest of our furniture, but I viewed it as background noise, a permanent fixture without which the room felt incomplete. When I was 8, I woke in the middle of the night to a distinct creak. It wasn't the natural settling of wood, it was the sound of someone opening a door. I turned on my pillow and saw the right door had indeed cracked open, about a hand's width. Moonlight and street lamps filtered through the window, revealing something white inside. I sat up, squinting. The white spot was an eye. Half a face peered through the gap, pale, smooth, and devoid of any living warmth. Above the forehead was a faint, light fuzz, reminiscent of an old doll. The eye was bulbous, clouded over with a milky film. No pupil, no gaze, just a white orb. Below it, the corner of a mouth was visible, thin lips stretched into a crooked smile. The teeth were yellowish, small, and wet. The face didn't move, the eye didn't blink. I froze, pinned to my mattress by sheer terror. I sat there as that face stared me down. Then the door slowly closed with a faint clink of brass. Silence reclaimed the air. Only then did I dare lower my head, pull the duvet to my chin, and eventually drift into a fitful sleep. The next morning I told my parents. They listened, exchanged looks, and dismissed it as a dream, a common nightmare to be forgotten. But I insisted until I was hoarse that someone was in my wardrobe. To settle the matter, my father marched into my room and flung the doors open. There were only my sweaters, shirts, and sneakers. He checked the back panel, felt behind the clothes. Nothing. So, where's your monster? I still didn't believe it was a dream. From then on, I couldn't sleep without a nightlight, imagining that the small circle of warm light held the doors in place. That naive superstition soon crumbled. The nightlight was on when the hinges creaked again. The right door slid open, revealing that horrific half-face once more. Same pupilless eye, same warped smile. The face was motionless, merely watching. I didn't dare scream or call for help. I sat paralyzed, clutching my blanket, waiting for the doors to shut. Eventually, it became a routine. Several times a week, the wardrobe would open, and the ghastly entity would watch me. Nothing more. It would last for about half an hour. By morning, the wardrobe held nothing but clothes. Complaining to my parents was futile. They thought I was acting out for attention. I even tried to bargain for a new wardrobe for my birthday, but it only annoyed them. Why would you want another? This one is perfectly fine. I resigned myself to it, accepting the nightly visitations as a private burden to be endured. Everything changed when the cockroaches arrived. Perhaps they came from the neighbors or the trash chute. My mother was obsessive about cleanliness, so we knew the infestation came from outside. That night I sat waiting. I had learned to sense when the half-face was coming. The air would grow colder, the silence tightening until it felt thick enough to touch. The hinges groaned softly. The right door slid aside, and the milky eye appeared. Then a pale hand with thin blue veins reached out from the darkness. A finger with a sharp nail pointed behind me. The thin lips barely moved. I heard a whisper, "Kill." My throat went dry. The finger remained pointed. "Go on. Kill the bug." I turned. A cockroach was perched on the wall near the light switch, its antennae twitching. "Oh, that's what it wanted," the voice whispered. "Bring it to me." I couldn't refuse. I crawled to the wall on my knees and pinned the insect against the wallpaper with a trembling finger. There was a dry crunch, like a tiny shell snapping. The voice spoke again, softly, almost kindly. "Don't be afraid. Come closer. Give it to me." I climbed off the bed, my legs heavy. I approached the wardrobe. An open palm, as still as marble, extended from the crack. I dropped the insect onto it. The fingers curled shut and the hand retreated. The door slowly closed. Silence returned. The face didn't appear for several weeks after that, but I knew it would return. I waited for it as one waits for the inevitable. One night, the creak returned. The familiar, horrific face peered out. I forced myself out of bed and walked right up to it. "I have something for you," I said, my voice betraying me. I held out my small offering. The half-face seemed surprised. "What?" I held a matchbox. "This is for you." Hands reached out and took the sacrifice. When the entity opened the box, live cockroaches spilled out. The half-face lit up with delight. "Oh, you are a good boy." The door slammed shut instantly. I sat on the edge of the bed and exhaled. I had spent days catching those insects. It was the price for a few months of peace. I couldn't pull that trick twice. The building declared war on the roaches. My mother made enough calls to start a global disinfection campaign. The insects vanished, replaced by a lingering, sickly sweet chemical smell. When the wardrobe creaked again, I had nothing but a dead June bug I'd found in a flower pot. It was all I could offer. When I handed it over, the white eye went flat and dull. "It's dry. It's husks," the voice hissed. "I'm sorry," I whispered, fearing punishment. But the guest simply said, "Bring me a mouse." I shook my head in terror. "I don't have any mice." "You do," it hissed. "They're scratching in the kitchen. Can't you hear them? Catch one. Bring it tomorrow." It retreated before I could protest. The next morning, I checked under the kitchen sink. It smelled of mice, but they were nowhere to be seen. How could I catch them if they were hiding? I waited for night with dread. When the pale face appeared, I apologized. "I haven't caught one yet. I'm sorry." "Pity," the creature sighed before vanishing. There was no punishment. I realized then that these weren't orders. They were requests. But what would happen if I failed to fulfill them? I wanted to appease my guest, to keep it satisfied. The next morning I scoured the balcony until I found an old mousetrap with rusted springs. Secretly, I baited it with sausage and slid it under the sink. Not 10 minutes later, a snap echoed through the kitchen. I ran. It wasn't a false alarm. I'd caught one. The bar had snapped across its gray back. Its tiny tail flickered like a thread, paws twitching until it went still. I felt a hollow pit in my stomach. I felt like a murderer. I thought the trap would just hold it, not crush it. But soon that hollowness was replaced by relief. Now I had something to pay the guest. That night I was impatient. I fiddled with the edges of the newspaper scrap I'd used to wrap the sacrifice. As soon as the milky eye appeared, I jumped up. "I got it. Here." The pale hand took the gift. The wardrobe slammed shut. That small sacrifice bought me peace for many months. Years passed. I fed the entity periodically. Beetles, earthworms, small rodents. Sometimes I thought about destroying the wardrobe, but I developed a taste for it. The monster no longer inspired fear. It was a game with simple rules. Sacrifices for quiet nights. My private secret. But as I grew older, I lost interest. At 15, I began to wonder, what is this all for? It was then the half-face made a new request. Boy, will you bring me a bird? I grew bold. And what do I get in return? The creature paused, then asked, what do you want? Tell me. I hadn't expected that. I stood up, looked into that milky eye, and said, I want money. The face twisted in distaste. I do not know money. Ask for something that cannot be bought. Then I need to think, I replied. My heart was pounding. Could it truly grant wishes? I immediately thought of the 3 thugs at school who made my life miserable. The leader was Dima Slavin, a pimply brute with heavy fists who smelled of sweat and cigarettes. He had 2 lackeys, one tall and wiry, the other a slouching boy with bitten bloody nails. They were a unit of petty cruelty. Trips in the hallway, elbows in the ribs, spit on my bag. I hated them with a burning passion. I want to be strong, I said, strong enough to defend myself. The eye widened. You ask for much, then bring me a person. My hope died. It was impossible. A person, I whispered. The half-face nodded. Yes, give me a person and you will be the strongest. What if I bring them during the day? The question left my lips before I could think. Bring them at any hour, the creature said, and the wardrobe shut. I didn't sleep. A person? If I lured one of those thugs. No, they'd never come to my house. Then there was Igor, whom everyone called Shimshak. He was a strange kid, chewed on pen caps, talked too fast, and laughed at jokes no one understood. He often followed me after school. A few days later, outside my building, I found myself asking, Shimshak, want to come up and play video games? His eyes lit up. Sure. My parents were out. I hoped no one saw us. As we climbed the stairs, I hesitated. Was I really going to do this? But then my jaw ached, a reminder of a punch Slavin had landed that morning for no reason. I opened the door. Shimshak dropped his bag and wandered into my room. He saw the wardrobe. Cool cabinet, he said, stepping closer. Open it, I forced out. What's inside? You'll see. He grabbed the brass handles and pulled. I wanted to scream, stop, but the air was gone. The doors flew open, and white hands dragged him inside. The wardrobe slammed shut with a heavy thud. I ran into the hallway, clutching my head. Shimshak hadn't even screamed. Silence filled the apartment. Only his backpack and shoes remained. He was gone. Forever. I checked the wardrobe later. Nothing but my clothes. The shock left me numb for days. I burned his things behind the garages until they were ash. People searched for him, flyers went up, but I stayed silent. I told myself I didn't see anything, but the guilt was a cancer. Then the thugs found me. At recess, Slavin shouted, Hey, Petya, get over here. I didn't even look at him. Drop dead. Slavin marched over. What did you say? He swung, but I caught his arm. My fingers clamped onto his wrist. Stopping him was effortlessly easy. I felt like I could crush his bones. Slavin turned red, then screamed. I twisted his wrist, forcing him to his knees. Touch me again and I'll rip this arm off. Understand? He stared at me as if seeing a ghost. I understand, he whimpered. His lackeys were pale with terror. Slavin spat. Psycho! They never touched me again. It was worth it. But they found a new victim, a younger boy they harassed in the hallway. My hatred hadn't vanished. They were still monsters. That night, the wardrobe opened. "Can you take the ones I hate?" I asked. "Bring them," the creature replied. "I can't bring them here." The entity grinned. "I will do this as a favor between friends. The burnt-out building at the end of the street. Lead them there." The next day, I found them smoking behind the school. "I have a lead on a tobacco stash," I told them. "An old warehouse at the burnt-out atelier. Whole crates of cigarettes." I played on their greed. Slavin was skeptical but intrigued. When they finally agreed, I felt a cold thrill. The next morning, the news was everywhere. 3 students had died. They had gone into the unstable, burnt-out building, and the roof had collapsed on them. A tragedy for the school, but not for me. I felt no regret. The half-face kept its word. That night the wardrobe clicked open. It smelled of smoke and wet ash. "Thank you," I said. The creature nodded, but a thought nagged at me. "Will you take me one day?" "Take you? Why?" The entity seemed genuinely puzzled. "In the stories, there are always consequences." "We are not in a story. You are my best friend. We help each other. Let us be together forever." The door opened wider. The shadows cleared. I saw it fully for the first time. I realized why it only showed half its face. It only had half a face. The other side was a void, a dark, weeping hole. It was horrific. And yet, it didn't matter. This thing was closer to me than my own parents. If it asked for them, I wouldn't hesitate. I imagined everything we could do together. "Deal," I said. "Let's stay together